Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for being here. The City of West Palm Beach continues to work with the Florida Department of Health and the Department of Environmental Protection with the hope that we will be able to soon lift the water advisory for vulnerable populations, which was first issued by the city on May 28th. Water quality samples collected on June 1st and 2nd showed cylinder spermopsin, a toxin produced by blue-green algae, in our drinking water system at less than the Environmental Protection Agency's National Health Advisory level for vulnerable populations. Now, this is very, very promising news for our city and our water customers, but I have to caution, we are not officially out of the woods just yet. However, we are one step closer toward lifting the advisory, and that is very encouraging. Currently, the city is working with the appropriate regulatory agencies, Department of Health, Department of Environmental Protection, and we will lift the advisory once we receive the green light from them. Now, when we went into this week, we were told that we needed to produce 2 consecutive days of clean water, in effect, water being with the toxins below a certain level. And so we rushed to get the samples from Tuesday up to Tallahassee, and again, thanks to the sheriff for providing us with his airplane. We rushed to get a sample from Wednesday up to Tallahassee, and thanks again to the sheriff. I think they used a helicopter this time. And both of those samples came back with the levels of toxin below the warning line, if you will. And but they have, in essence, and we were told that once we produce 2 consecutive days of clean samples, that the advisory would be lifted. However, they seem to have moved the goalposts on us, to use a football analogy, and now the Department of Environmental Protection has stepped in, and DEP is currently reviewing some additional data from the past few days prior to giving the city the all clear. So we are doing everything we can. We remain in constant communication with them, anticipating that any moment we will get the green light. But it is somewhat frustrating when you don't always know the rules of the game. And we've received assurances from the Palm Beach County Health Department that they also are fervently working on this matter. So, for the time being, populations impacted by the Vulnerable Populations Water Advisory should continue to follow that advisory. For everyone not included in the advisory, if you're not a member of that vulnerable population group, you may continue to use the water to cook, drink, and bathe. And I'm even more confident, based upon the test over the past few days, that there will not be an issue. We're prepared to continue to keep open our water point of distributions if they are needed tomorrow. As of yesterday, we had distributed 280,000 bottles of water in 5 days of operation. Now, let me share with you how the city has responded to reduce the levels of blue-green algae and the cylinder spermopsin toxin. We took a number of steps, including isolating and treating the bloom in the western portion of the M Canal, initiating operation of the emergency well fields to provide an algae-free source of water. We closed the Australian Avenue gates and operating the Australian Avenue pump station. And we discontinued operation of the Australian Avenue pump station. We added additional powdered activated carbon, or PAC. We increased post-chlorine dosage, and we switched to free chlorine within the treatment and distribution systems. And the combination of all of those efforts has led to tests which are coming back in the normal range. And I believe that these tactics are why our test results are showing that the toxin in our drinking water system is at less than the EPA's National Health Advisory level for vulnerable populations. Again, we're encouraged. However, we are somewhat frustrated because we don't quite know when the end will be. But as soon as we are approved to lift the advisory, we will do so. And I have to reiterate, I believe and know that our Public Utilities Department responded appropriately in this matter based upon all applicable EPA guidelines. And I believe we distributed to the various news outlets as background information copies of those guidelines, which specifically call for confirmatory testing. Now, to our valued water customers, please know this. Please, please, hear my heart on this. We thank you for your patience over these past several days, and we're so sorry for the inconvenience. I know this has been a tough time for so many people, particularly those in the vulnerable populations. I did personally call the mayors of the town of Palm Beach and the town of South Palm Beach and apologize to them, A, for failing to personally notify them last Friday and give them a heads up as to the advisory, and also that they find themselves in this situation. But to our water customers, each and every day we are working hard to protect you and our residents' safety and well-being by providing safe, clean water. We understand the importance of clean, safe, and reliable drinking water to you, your family, your pet, your business. So where do we go from here? Even prior to getting the advisory, I made the decision to convene a panel of experts that will come in and review the city's practices, particularly when it comes to algal bloom-related toxins. I just want to make sure that with a fresh set of eyes, that the city is doing everything that we can, that we've incorporated all the best practices, and we look forward to receiving the recommendations from that panel. And certainly, as important, we are continuing to work with our partners at the Department of Environmental Protection and Department of Health to get this advisory lifted. This is a matter of utmost priority. And as soon as it is lifted, we will share that information with you via news media, TV 18, social media, etc. As mayor, I will do everything it takes to protect our water supply from potential threats, whether by human activity or climate change. Additionally, the City of West Palm Beach has agreed to partner with state agencies and share our experiences with this toxin to help them develop guidelines for surface water plants throughout the state of Florida. Because we were the first surface water plant in the state to ever experience this, we are now in a position to assist these agencies working to protect not only West Palm Beach's water, but all of Florida municipalities' water. Before I close, I do want to take a point of personal privilege, if you don't mind. I need to clarify some inaccurate and damaging information that has recently been published. And what I consider the largest dereliction of journalistic duty, certainly in all my years of public life, the editorial staff, in an editorial published yesterday, basically stated that I, the mayor, decided to withhold from the public my knowledge of the water supply's contamination for more than 10 days. That, my friends, is nothing less than a bold-faced lie. What is even more upsetting is that the author of this editorial had never asked me or any of my staff to explain what the mayor knew and when the mayor knew it. We never got that question. So how he is saying that me personally knew for 10 days and withheld this information from the public, to me, boggles my mind, and it is nothing other than a lie. And I will tell you, you didn't ask the question, but had he asked me, I would tell him I learned of this incident on Friday, May 28th, the same day we issued the advisory, in an email sent to me by the Director of Public Utilities at 11:34 a.m. And we have copies of that email available for you to take with you. That's when I first learned of this. You can ask Dr. Poonam. And we immediately went into emergency mode to try to get the word out to the public. Now, as I've said before, we had to get the official blessing of the Department of Health. But Dr. Poonam would tell you that I probably bugged her more than she wanted to hear from me that Friday, because I kept saying, where is it? Where is the language? Where is it? We need it. I knew the urgency of this matter, and I wanted to get it out to the public. So, again, for this writer, and I believe the writer of the editorial is Tony Doris, who, again, never contacted me or my staff to even ask me when I became aware of the problem. It's a very simple question. Mayor, when did you know? What did you know, and when did you know it? What's even more troubling is that when we brought this to the attention of the editor of the Post, my communications department provided them with a copy of the same email we're going to give you now, confirming that I was first notified on Friday, May 28th, state stamped, when we showed them the receipts, if you will. They still have online, almost 24 hours later after receiving that information, the inaccurate, libelous, slanderous editorial. Now listen, the public and the press are right to hold the city accountable and demand transparency. I understand that. I've been in public office for 12 years. Public forums and a free press are necessary to sustain a democratic republic. But it is wrong. It is wrong that a journalist would lie to the public during a time of crisis. Why he would lie, I don't know. You'll need to raise that with him. All I can say is that he's entitled to his opinion, but he's not entitled to his facts. The facts, ladies and gentlemen, are very, very clear. The mayor of the city of West Palm Beach first became aware of this situation involving our water on Friday, May 28th at 11:34 a.m. pursuant to an email. So to suggest that I intentionally withheld information, that I was hiding information from the public, that I took away the public's chance to protect themselves, it is total, and this is a family story, but the word I want to say starts with bull, and you can fill in the blank. And again, how do you say stuff like that? You're a journalist, I'm not. But I was a lawyer for many years. And you generally don't say something or make accusations like that unless you have data to back it up. I challenge Mr. Doris, anybody else at the Post, to show me the data they have that says for 10 days, I knew this information and withheld it from the public. I challenge them to do that. You know, that's all I'm gonna say on that. He is not entitled to his, and the Post is not entitled to their own version of the facts. When you accuse a public official of withholding essential information from the public, you better have something to back that up. So Palm Beach Post, Rick Christie, Tony Doris, if you have that information, produce it. If not, take that editorial down and issue me an apology. Thank you for that moment. So again, in closing, we do hope to be able to lift the order soon. I thank my public utility staff and lab scientists who are working so diligently on this matter. And again, I thank the public for their patience. Now, right now, I'm joined by Dr. Poonam Kalkat, our Public Utilities Director. We are here to answer any questions you may have.
Mayor, one question. Dave Bowman, I'm with WPB-TV.
Yes, sir.
Channel 5. What do you say to the people in that vulnerable population who know that there was a negative test that was brought to the city's attention on May 19th, but they were not notified until 9 days later, and they believe that they were placed in danger by not being warned of water that they drank over a 9-day period that appears to have been contaminated?
And that's a fair question, and Dr. Kalkat, you can help elaborate upon this. But as I understand the protocols that they were operating under at the time, and again, I believe we gave you all copies of those protocols, it did call for, and this is for unregulated toxins, ladies and gentlemen. This is not for toxins that is on the most wanted list, or the top 10, the most dangerous toxins. The protocol for unregulated toxins is to do follow-up confirmatory tests, plural, not one. And I think in this case we did 3, because we have been testing for this since 2016. It had never come up, and so we didn't know if this was an anomaly. And indeed, the protocols that we were following required us to do confirmatory tests. So we were not, you don't want to overreact to a false positive, if you will, but we were simply complying with the protocol. Dr. Poonam.
But let me just remind you, there are people that really believe they were placed in danger because they have a negative test. And they weren't told, they weren't told till 8 days later, they weren't told, be careful, don't drink the water. And people who may be at risk if they drink.
Well, listen, again, for unregulated toxins, which I believe are treated differently than those which are regulated, probably because they have less of an effect on human life and welfare, there are protocols that are there. And so while there was no intent, obviously, to harm anyone, but we have people who are professionals who are governed by protocols. And these are the professionals. They were doing their job as best they knew their job to be.
And I've read the protocols.
Get it?
They are exactly what you say they are. Do these protocols need to change, perhaps, because of this? Because there were people that really feel they were exposed to risk.
Well, and to those people, I say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. The city certainly did not wish to put anyone in harm's way, but the city did want to do its job in accordance with the protocols. These are folks who are in a water plant. They are just doing their job, and the job, the reaction, the appropriate reaction for that particular situation called for running additional tests. And Dr. Kalkat, I don't know if you want to expand upon that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I understand the concerns. I understand how people might feel that we should have done this or we could have done this. I understand those. The problem is with drinking water, you have to follow what are the guidelines that have been given for regulated compounds as well as unregulated compounds. Without confirmation, if you put something out and you go through a advisory, you've seen what it takes to get through an advisory. So that can cause undue panic sometimes for things that may not be necessarily a problem. So we have to confirm results. This EPA guidance actually gives a 10-day advisory. So basically you have 10 days to advise the public, which means even at those concentrations with the vulnerable population, that those 10 days is what EPA guidelines is saying is okay for you to put a public notification out. So for us to get those results back, get that information, confirm that, we had to go through the Department of Health. Once we got the confirmation, we had to go through city administration so that they were aware of it and the mayor was aware of it. And that's when we started talking to Department of Health. They started reaching out to Department of Environmental Protection. It's possible because of this one incident that the state will come up with guidelines that may be different. And we have always followed, and we will continue to follow any guidelines from either any local agencies, county agencies, state agencies, or federal agencies. So we are going to continue doing that. And there was no intention of putting anybody in any harm. If we thought, based on everything that we were reading, that there was something that was immediate harm, we would have taken immediate action. But based on everything that we had read, based on what the protocol was told, that in the EPA guidelines, this is what you need to do, that's what we followed. Like I've mentioned before, there are 2 states in the country that have set up guidelines, and it's absolutely possible that Florida will follow those 2 states and put up some guidelines based on what we have faced. So it is unprecedented, it is uncharted territory, and even some of these notifications, how they go out, how the lifts work. If it's a regulated compound, we know exactly when to put an advisory out, when to put a public notification out, what is needed to lift. Even though we still need to go through Department of Health, those are prescribed, there's a prescribed playbook. It tells you exactly what to do. I understand that the public feels that no matter what the guidelines say, you should do this. But as people who deal with drinking water all day long, we have to follow the guidelines. Otherwise, every place, every treatment plant would be doing whatever they thought was right. And that's why those guidelines and that's why those standards and prescribed playbooks are in place.
Dr. Kalkat, I have a question for Michelle Casada with the WPB and also for Mayor James, whoever can answer. One, for you, even though it wasn't part of the protocol, why was there no communication with the mayor's office to at least give them a heads up and let them know, hey, this is going on, we have to follow guidelines, we have to repeat testing for 3 days consecutively? And 2, can you also afterwards go and tell us what those levels were on May 19th when they came back from May 17th and then the following days that you tested consecutively?
So I don't recall exactly each day's numbers. The highest number that we have seen is 1.5 ppb in the drinking water, in the point of entry. I usually follow any confirmations that I need to have before I reach out to city administration and the mayor. Now, we will sit down and look at what our protocol is, and if city administration and the mayor decide that I should be letting them know right away, then that's what's going to happen. So if I was at fault in that, then I do apologize, but that I was following what I thought was the right way to do this.
And that's fine, and we will discuss this internally. But again, you can't fault someone for doing their job in accordance with the protocols that govern their particular industry. So in terms of how we adjust the communications pattern and models, we will discuss that internally. Again, this whole experience is an opportunity for lessons learned. How do we do better? I need to do a better job of reaching out to mayors of cities which are customers of ours. I need to do a better job of reaching out to my city commissioners. So there are lessons learned, no question about it. However, hopefully people will understand, and this is the message that I communicated to both mayors yesterday, these omissions were omissions of the mind and not the heart. It was not no intent to harm or disrespect anyone or any municipality.
Mayor, let's
Yes.
talk from CBS 12 News. What is the holdup with the DEP right now? Do you have any idea why they won't let you lift the water advisory at this time? Because isn't that the agency that told you you needed 2 consecutive tests with low-level toxins?
Well, let me answer and the question is, what's the holdup? And then isn't DEP the agency that told us? No, the agency that told us was the Department of Health. And as I understand it, Doctor, you might want to weigh in. Typically, this is handled at the county Department of Health level, all right? And that's who our people had been talking to, and we had been advised as we were preparing. We knew we were going to send it up to testing, so conversation was happening even last week as to what steps we should take, because we wanted to know. It's uncharted territory, and the information we received is that give us 2 consecutive days of clean samples. We sent a third one up there because just in case one of these other days didn't work out, we didn't want any delay of time. So there's actually a third sample up there now, which we'll probably get results from tomorrow. And so just as we were about to push the send button on the emails to our commissioners telling them that the advisory had been lifted, we get notice that Don't do that yet. The DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, needs to bless this as well. And now, Dr. Kalkat, do you know what information they're looking for? Because it was a surprise to us.
No, we don't have all the information. Obviously, if you can think about it, this is a little bit of an uncharted territory for them too. And that is, they are also looking at how best, what is the best. Everybody has the interest of public health. Every agency is trying to do the right thing for public health. The city is, Department of Health is, Department of Environmental Protection is. That's what all of us are governed by. So if DEP is taking their time to look through some things, then they are going to look through those to make sure that public health is protected. We as a city are open about whatever they are going to tell us and how they want us to do. What kind of frequency of sampling afterwards we need to do, what kind of monitoring program we need to put in place, will be all things that they will be letting us know and we'll be discussing in the next few weeks and figuring out how best to go about it. And based on, like I've said, they're probably writing a playbook and guidelines for any other either surface water treatment plant or for any groundwater treatment plants that may be keeping reservoirs of water for storage that could get any algal blooms. So this is a problem statewide. Algae has been a problem. It has been going more and more, and it is something that everybody has to be looking at more carefully and working with us. So we welcome all the opportunity that we will have to work with Department of Health as well as Department of Environmental Protection.
Mr. Mayor, did DEP give you any indication about how long their review will take? I mean, already you were just about to lift that, and now we're in this never land where we don't know when they will be finished so that you could issue a lifting of the advisory.
Unfortunately, I don't have that information yet. We're continuing to stay in touch with our contacts. We're even reaching out to the governor's office to see if we could get any insight there. We've got state lobbyists up in Tallahassee burning up the phones. Obviously, we want to get this behind us as soon as possible. And I thought when we set up this press conference, I thought for sure I would be bringing great news to our city. And as we were finalizing, putting the final touches on the comments, the word came out that we need to hold off and pump the brakes. But don't ignore the fact that we do have 2 consecutive days of clean tests. So that hopefully will begin restoring people's confidence that our water is getting back to where it should be. I got to be careful what I say because we don't have an official, we haven't lifted the advisory. So I still comply with the advisory, but I am optimistic based upon the tests that our system is where it should be and getting even better.
Let me ask this question as well.
Have you been drinking the water since Friday when you learned about it?
Excuse me?
Have you been drinking the water since Friday?
Absolutely. I've been drinking tap water since I'm not in the vulnerable group. So I comply with the terms and yes, drinking tap water. I probably made a mistake because I got a 170-pound German Shepherd. I've been giving him tap water as well. And I know I'm not supposed to do it with pets. Don't tell anybody that. But he seems to be doing fine.
Mr. Mayor, we're hearing from people in that vulnerable group who said that they were not aware of the advisory. Could there be a better effort to get messaging out to them?
We will certainly look at that. We've used social media. We've used reverse 911. We're before you, just about every other day. With email blasts. So we're certainly open to any suggestions on how we could do a better job of communicating. I thought we were just, we've exhausted apparently not all the options, but a lot of options. We've even told our city commissioners if, use their particular network, whether it's social media or email, to just get the word out to as many people as possible. We're doing everything we can.
Mayor, if you were told on May 19th the results of the tests, what would you have done?
That's speculation, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would be sitting down with the doctor, and I don't know, because at the same time, she probably would have showed me the protocols, which said we're supposed to do some confirming testing. So I don't want to get into hypotheticals, all right? It's hard enough when I'm trying to operate with real facts, because some people ignore the real facts and still accuse me of withholding information for 10 days.
Do you have the sense, you haven't been told, you haven't been given a roadmap for when DEP will be done doing whatever it's doing to give you clearance to lift this advisory. Do you have the sense that there are delays that are politically driven that are set up to make you look bad?
You know, I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail. I am going to be optimistic and feel that everyone who has touched this issue, whether it's at the county level or the state level, has the purest of motives. Is that naive on my part? Perhaps, but it helps me sleep at night, okay? So I am optimistic that we will get past this point sooner rather than later. We will get that advisory lifted. I hold that optimism, particularly in light of the fact that we have 2 clean tests. We'll probably have a 3rd one when the results come back tomorrow. You can't argue with data. So I'm optimistic, but I'm not going to take a pessimistic approach to this.
I wanted to ask the doctor about the clean test. You mentioned, the mayor's mentioned that we've had 2 samples come back below the threshold of danger. Can you tell us what that number is?
Right now, the results that I've looked at from 1st of June and 2nd of June in the distribution system, as well as point of entry to the distribution system, have been below detection limits.
What's the number? I mean, I think the number, the limit was what, 0.7?
0.7 is the EPA
Right.
guidelines.
So where is it now?
Now, below detection limit is whatever they cannot detect below. At this point,
So there isn't a number.
the lab will give you a less than 0.1
I see.
ppb
So there
because
isn't a number.
they can't,
It's just
because it's below what they can detect.
Okay.
It could be 0, but you can't say 0 because 0 is nothing, right?
Dr. Kalkat, has
Okay.
there been any communication with the state health department about trying to expedite these types of sample tests just because of the situation that we're in? I know that there was some waiting period you all had to go through after the 19th to be able to test the 3 consecutive days. If you could walk us through that, what the protocol was to wait those days.
We are looking at, and not just, we are looking at whether our own lab can do any of these toxin analysis in the future. We don't know. We haven't really looked at it completely. We have started that process already. We are also looking at, there are some test kits that may not be absolute and quantitative, but will give you a good indication. So we have already started looking into purchasing some of those to help us as we go forward. We will talk to the DEP lab and see whether they have any suggestions for any other labs that do it. But like I said, if we can do it ourselves, that would be the best place in our opinion, and we are working towards that and looking into that.
And if I may just interject, those are the kinds of questions we want this panel of experts to come in and give us advice on as to how we might do a better job with testing and, you know, any suggestions they may have. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was just going to say, you know, so to confirm, you basically had to wait until the health department, you couldn't issue any advisory or at least any heads up on the 27th when you got the results back until the health department approved to issue an advisory? Because a lot of people have been asking, well, if anybody Googles I can't even say the word now, the toxin on the EPA's website, you can see who the vulnerable groups are just by knowing what it is. So can you speak about that a little bit?
Yes, with any drinking water advisories or public notifications, they need to be approved by whichever agency regulates that treatment plant. So in our case, it is the county's health department that regulates our treatment plant. And so any public notification that goes out, even the routine ones that go out, need to have gone through a Department of Health. Now those routine, any kind of notifications, usually they've already looked at the language. The language is already in place, and we are just keeping them informed if any notification goes out. And if it's anything outside the ordinary that might go out, then again, we have to make sure that they're okay. And the reasons for that is that treatment plants or municipalities cannot decide on the language on their own. So people don't come up with whatever way to say what they want to say. It has to meet the standards. And in this case, they were also looking at DEP to help them give the human health advisory, because this was different than anything that we've done before.
Since this particular issue seems kind of unique to the surface water, might the city consider using a different source for drinking water in the future, like an underground aquifer?
So and the mayor said this, that he's going to convene a panel. So we are going to look at everything. This is something that we have been looking at. The city has wells in place. So we have 2 well fields, eastern well field and a western well field, and those are groundwater sources. The way our water use permit is written right now, which was issued in 2013 by South Florida Water Management District, it is based, we cannot use those wells until we hit a certain level on Clear Lake. So our Clear Lake has to come down to a certain level for us to start Eastern Well Field, and then to go down even more, much more than it is right now, to even start our Western Well Field. And so those are more, in their opinion, drought protection well fields. And so that's one of the things that we have been working with them over the past couple of years. And every year, when we come into the dry season's ending, the rainy season hasn't started, and we get into this low water or water shortage kind of time period, and also we start seeing algal blooms from Lake Okeechobee and L8 Canal, which becomes our source water during the dry season. We have to go and ask South Florida, can we start using our wells? And this is one of the reasons why we do that, because we know water quality-wise that might start becoming an issue. So like the mayor said, we are going to have that panel. We are going to bring experts in and look at everything. What do we need to do with our water use permit? Can we start these well fields earlier, sooner rather than later in the season? And all of those things together, and any other suggestions of what can be done and what needs to be brought. There are ideas that we already have, we've been working on, and then I'm sure the panel will come up with more ideas or recommend some of the things that we have been thinking about and talking about as to what to do.
Mayor James, what do you
Yes.
tell families who may have, their kids may have gotten a little sick in the last couple of days, vomiting, that kind of thing, who are obviously, this is at the back of their mind, is it linked, is it not linked, they don't know. What do you tell these families that, now are wondering, are there any, exposure issues, acute exposure issues from this?
Well, they should see the family physician and certainly get the kids checked out as much as possible. And listen, if someone can confirm that they got sick as a result of some of these actions, I'm sure that they will find lawyers who are willing to bring that situation to the city and pursue legal action. But again, I'm a parent of 2 children, so I can understand when a kid is sick and you don't know what's causing it, or you have a suspicion and you're mad, you're angry at who you think or which agency you think might have caused it. I get that, but certainly get the kid to a doctor and try to get as much information as possible.
Are you getting reports of people saying that they are sick, or people calling into the city? I've checked with the Department of Health, and I've not gotten a response from the Department of Health as to whether or not they're tracking calls and instances of people being sick. Is anyone with the city kind of manning that, making sure that, we know how many people are saying they're getting sick?
Well, no calls have come into that effect. I mean, we have calls, and even if the commissioners get calls, those are put into what we call our smart sheet system, where we log the particular complaints that come in. And believe me, if somebody felt that they was getting sick as a result of this, I've been getting other emails, not so politely stated, but none that have said that because of our actions or inaction, they've gotten sick, or they have family members who've gotten sick. We did have some folks show up at our city commission meeting on Monday night. I think a family with 2 young kids, and they felt that they wanted to let us know in strong terms that we should be embarrassed. Any other questions? Well, listen, thank you again for bringing shining a spotlight on this issue. As I said, when I first came here, I was hoping to have had much better news, but we will continue to monitor it and certainly let you know when that advisory is lifted. And I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic, that will be soon. Thank you, everyone.